Today we are looking at lesson 12 in unit F. We're solving equations again, and we're trying to eliminate our fractions and decimals. So one of the key things that we want to be talking about is that whenever you have an equation that involves decimals, it's always often easiest to, and what we want to do is first is clear our decimal. So the first thing we want to try and do is clear the decimal first, so that we have an easier equation to work with. Whenever we have an equation with fractions, again, same kind of thing we want to work with. We want to clear the fraction, so it's always easiest to multiply. And what are we always multiplying by? Yesterday in class we talked about we multiply by the least common multiple, so that we don't have to work with fractions. So here we're given the situation where you and your friends each order a pizza. You order a medium pizza with 3 toppings. Your friend orders a large with 1 topping. A medium pizza with no toppings is $5.45. A large pizza with no toppings costs $7.95. You each pay the same amount. What is the price per 1 topping? Well, the thing we want to be thinking about is we are looking at the pizza cost. So if you think about this as you're filling this down, what was our pizza cost? Well, the first one we were looking at was $5.45. So when we're writing it actually with numbers, pizza cost plus what are we doing? We are looking at the number of toppings times how much each topping costs. So the number of toppings, and in this case, times the price of our toppings. And that's what we don't know. That's our variable. That's our x in this case. So in this case, we had with 3 toppings, so we had 3x. And that's going to be equal to our other pizza cost, if we are looking at that. So we have the pizza cost, and again, plus the number of toppings times the price. And again, what we don't know is our price. That's our x. So our other pizza, if we are looking at the cost, was $7.95. Plus on this one, we only had 1 topping, so 1x. You want to solve the equation. How do we do it? We get all variables on one side. Now, could you at this point multiply everything to get rid of your decimals? We could. In this case, I think sometimes you're dealing with money. $5.45 plus 2x equals $7.95. This is not one where I would probably try and look at thinking that I have to multiply by 100. Could you multiply by 100? You sure could. In this case, most of you would probably think of just subtracting 545 from both sides. And this again is not that hard of a problem that you're looking at. You put it in your calculator, making sure you put your right decimals in, and you end up with $2.50. So 2 toppings cost $2.50. We're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get $1 dividing both sides by 2. X, the cost of 1 topping, is we get 1.25. To answer our question, we want to say it was $1.25 per topping. So if you ever go like to Spicy Pie or some other restaurants, what you're looking at is how much is it per topping. Here's another one that we want to take a look at. In this one, it's talking about, this one we are going to do the multiplication just so you can see the difference in solving them. Dawn and Jenna are growing their hair. Dawn starts at 10 inches and grows at a rate, think about our slope, right, of 0.4 inches per month. Jenna starts at 8 inches and is growing at 0.54 inches per month. And the question is, when will their hair be the same length? So we have Dawn and we have Jenna. And if we are looking at this, we're going to start out that Dawn starts at 10 plus 0.46 m, because that's our slope. If we're looking at Jenna's, hers started at 8 inches plus 0.54 m. Since we have 2 numbers behind our decimal point, we're going to multiply every single thing by 100. If we are multiplying by 100 times 10, we have 1,000. Plus 46m equals 800 plus 54m. As you are solving these problems, do you always have to do this? Not always, but one of the things that they want you to think about is that as we now get our variables on both sides, we're not dealing with any decimals. So if we look at this problem, we have 1,000 is equal to 800 plus, when we take 54 minus 46, we should have 8m. You're going to subtract 800 from both sides. Again, you should be doing this without your calculator. So if we are looking at it, we're going to have 200 is equal to 8m. Again, if we were looking at the equation, this is the equation that you can fill in. We are now dividing both sides by 8. And when we divide both sides by 8, m is equal to 25. Have we answered the question? No. The question said, in how many months will their hair be the same length? So we would want to say, Dawn and Jenna's hair will be the same length, and we are just going to leave our answer in the same length in 25 months. So a little over 2 years if we are thinking about that. Again, if you need to pause this to make sure you have everything written down, you should do so, so your notes are filled in completely. Here's our next problem. One of the first things they ask you to do is clear by multiplying. What do we need to multiply? We look at 1, 1. This one has 2 numbers behind the decimal and 2. So when we are looking at this problem, we should be taking 100 times the whole equation. Now, notice that you have a lot of like terms on the one side. You're going to combine like terms once you've done that multiplication. So if I multiply by 100, I am now looking at 230x plus 390 minus 662x equals 12. When I add my like terms, 230 and negative 662 are on the same side of the equation. That means I'm actually going to take 230 on my calculator minus 662, and I get a negative 432x plus 390 equals 12. What do I need to subtract from both sides? I'm going to subtract the 390. I want to get my x by itself. So I subtract 390 on both sides of my equal sign. When I do that, I am left with negative 432x equals, and in this case, when we do our subtraction, we get a negative 378. We started with decimals. Our answer is probably going to end up with decimals. Negative dividing both sides by negative 432. Negative divided by negative should give us a positive solution. X in this case is equal to 0.875. Again, if you start with a decimal, you're going to end with a decimal answer. Start with a fraction, end with a fraction. So we're now going to look at one more case of multiplying with our fractions. I may do one of the examples in your homework, but I think we'll probably just get to work on your worksheet. If you do have questions, make sure you're asking. We're going to look at 3, 6, and 8. Well, I know 3 and 6 both go into 6, and 6 times 8 is 48. So the question is, as I'm looking at this, what do I want to multiply everything by? My least common denominator? Some of you might be thinking 48, but 8 times 3 gives us 24. 6 times 4 gives us 24, and so when we look at that, we don't want to use 48, 6 times 8, we want to use 24. So that's sometimes if you don't use the smallest one, then you just have to divide more later, but that's not a problem. So as we start this problem off, we are going to start with negative 2/3, and we're taking it times 48 over 24 over 1. Excuse me. 24 over 1 equals 1/6. And again, in this case, I probably, if I'm writing this down, I'm going to put my 24 first. So I want to put 24 over 1 times 1/6 x. I'm going to put plus 24 over 1 times 5/8. If you pause the video right now, so everyone has that written down, and then I'm going to do a little bit of the work so that you can see. Again, as we simplify, 3 goes into our 24. We're going to have negative 2 times. 3 goes into 24 if we are looking at that. We should have 8 times. So negative 2 times 8 is going to be equal to 6 goes into 24 4 times. So I'm going to have 4 times the 1x. 8 goes into 24 3 times, so I'm going to have plus 3 times 5. So if we were looking at that, we're going to do our multiplication of each term. We now have negative 16 equals 4x plus 15. We are going to subtract 15 from both sides of the equation. We get a negative 31 equals 4x. Divide both sides by 4. Again, if you need to pause the video, we're going to leave our answer as negative 31/4. Could you leave it as a negative 7 3/4? Yes, but not a decimal. Since we started with a fraction, we end. So, on your worksheet, what are you going to be looking at doing? The only problems I need you to do on your worksheet are 1 to 12 and 15 and 19. 1 to 12, 15, and 19. We will hand this in the next class when we meet.